Hey Ranger Nation, today we're going to be talking about episode 8 of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, which is the Cybergate Opens. So two things before we begin the video. If you want to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as a cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. And the second thing is, if you want a chance to win this lovely Power Rangers movie coin, then literally just leave a comment in the comments below about the episode, and yeah, you'll get a chance to win this. And I was very surprised that no one entered last week. So again, another coin, so we're going to be giving them away. So we open up on this episode where Ben is going through the corridors looking for something. He's got a tracking device that is obviously beeping, so we know what he's trying to do. He's trying to find Betty. He runs into Nate, who's trying to get ice cream from the vending machine, which I find very weird, mainly because it's an ice cream vending machine that's not giving out pots of Ben and Jerry's or something, but just kind of normal ice cream. So Ben kind of explains what he's looking for, or who he's looking for, and Nate's like, oh well, you know, she's not around here, I don't look like her, because he's like, have you seen her, or you know, are you this, whatever, and it's a kind of little bit of banter. And then all of a sudden, like when Nate gets angry about how he's not getting ice cream, he hits the kind of the vending machine, which then opens, and I love how just Betty's inside. She's like, you found me, or it's like, you found like this, you know, whatever. And I thought it was really cool. And then ice cream just kind of goes all over her, because I'm guessing the machine's finally caught up to actually when Nate's placed the order. We get kind of a really nice transition into the next scene, and Nate's in the lab working on a new kind of weapon. We know what this is going to be, but I'll explain it at the very end, where he's kind of finished it. He's put it on the kind of like the device that when Rangers like, or anyone just goes Beast Pod or Beast Blaster, like it kind of teleports in, which I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. It's nice to see some more stuff happening. So he's about to leave, but the Rangers all come in and like, oh hey, what you up to? What you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to go out and get some DNA for the new project, new weapons, etc. I've got to kind of like play this and, you know, to make it kind of work. And they were like, oh, are you meant to leave? And he's like, look guys, I'm okay. I'll be okay on my own. So they decide, hey, let's actually go outside. Let's go help him. Let's go pick up the stuff. And escort him. And you kind of think he's like, but then when Zoe actually suggests it all, he's like, okay, cool, let's go. In the next part, we've got Tronics outside this abandoned warehouse, because, you know, where else a bad guy's gonna go? Has to be to the warehouse. Yay! So the Tronics are outside kind of guarding it, and we go inside the base where Scruzzle is kind of like working his magic on the Cybergate that's been built. And I've got to admit, when you see it, it's very kind of impressive. If you've never seen it, it kind of reminds me very much of like the time tunnel thing that was back very like early on in the 80s. Like the time machine or something, and I just love the way that the Cybergate is actually kind of built. Blaze and Roxy are kind of now talking to Scruzzle and saying, okay, so what do you need? Scruzzle replies that he needs a body or a robot that is powerful enough to house Evox, otherwise it's not going to work and nothing's going to go on. So when Blaze and Roxy are like, okay, how can we help? What are we going to do? This is when Scruzzle goes like, we need this guy, we need this like ingenious person that was a scientist, and it's a picture of Nate on a magazine. Nate has created the supercomputer that is housing Evox at the moment. Roxy recognizes Nate and gives him a little bit of an insult, and both Roxy and Blaze kind of leave to go get him. We're now in the forest with Nate and the others, and Nate is picking up praying mantis DNA, and he's kind of like taking his time gathering the information. As soon as he's got that one, he finds a scarab beetle, and I think a lot of people are saying it's not a scarab beetle, but it's a beetle anyway. He's about to come and scan the beetle when the Rangers suddenly get a call that a monster is in downtown, like kind of terrorizing and destroying and ripping up the place. So with this, they all decide that they have to go. But Nate's like, no, I need to stay here. But the Ranger's like, no, you need to go. You need to get out and you need to head back to the base. Nate kind of throws like a little bit of a tantrum, and he's like going, no, I don't need to be looked after. I can handle myself really easily. When the Ranger's like, well, no, you know, we can't leave you. Nate goes, fine, I'll go back to the base. You know, things are going to be okay. And that's it. So the Rangers kind of just leave him. So you kind of think that maybe one of them would have stayed behind. But with this, Nate actually gets the scarab beetle DNA, and it's actually quite quick. So praying mantis must be a bit longer or something. So with this, Roxy and Blaze just kind of turn up out of nowhere. They actually capture Nate and they take him back, and this is when they kind of throw a little bit more insult to Nate. Now, one thing you do notice is when the tubes go around Nate, his communicator breaks, and you kind of think, haha, plot device. So yeah, they capture him and then they can take him back to the base. We now come to the city where Tronics and the monster of the day is draining the Morph X from the cars. So it's filling up its tanks, it's giving it to the Tronics to deposit all the way back into what it's got, into the trucks to send back to the Cybergate, as well as to give back to Evox. All of a sudden, the Rangers kind of pull up in their SUV or SRV, and they all get up and they start running towards the monster. As this happens, the Rangers are fired upon, as you would normally expect, and as soon as this goes on, the Rangers decide to morph straight into battle, and they go for it. The monster calls in Tronics, and a fight breaks out all between them, mainly the Rangers and the Tronics. This is when the monster and another Tronic actually get onto the truck, and they drive away, and they kind of escape. We then now come to Ben and Betty talking about if they want to go see a film. And, it's like, oh, which do you want to see? They don't know. So they decide, hey, let's just flip a coin. But, again, plot device. They pull out the tracking chip and they flip it. But then they're in the middle of the road when this happens. And they see the truck. And obviously, Ben pushes Betty out the way. And the chip falls onto the truck. Plot device. Yay! With this, then the monster pushes out barrels that kind of hit Ben and Betty, but they jump on it and they kind of roll it away, so they're kind of running on top of it. As kind of comedy style, they hit the kind of curve on the pavement and they kind of go out of shot. They go like, whoa, type thing. The Rangers defeat the Tronics and then rush off. We then come to Blaze and Roxy taking Nate to the abandoned warehouse where the Cybergate is. When Nate meets Scruzzle, Scruzzle explains the plan and then shows Nate the stuff that he stole. When Nate's like, oh my god, that's my stuff, you've stolen it. Scruzzle's like, yeah, by me only, and then goes through everything that they need. He says that Nate has got to build a robot body for Evox. When Nate kind of looks about, he looks at his communicator, I think, and then says he doesn't want to do it. But then Roxy pulls out a weapon and says, if you don't do it, you're gonna be destroyed or you're gonna die or something. And then Nate kind of figures out what he's gonna do and goes, yeah, okay, cool, I'll do this. I kind of really like the fact that Nate, he figures it all out really quickly and then has a plan already. But when he's kind of ready, he's like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'll do this. And I kind of really like that. But now we kind of turn to the Rangers. The Rangers are looking around the city. They can't find anything about the robot that's been taking stuff, and everything seems very, very clear. They then head back to the base and they kind of give the report that they didn't find anything. This is when they find out that Nate didn't return from the forest and everything's a bit crazy. The Rangers are really kind of like, oh my god. But then the commander turns around and goes, Nate can handle himself. But then I'm confused because in a previous episode, she then said, you can't handle yourself. That's not fair. You shouldn't be out. You need a person to stick about. It feels like they forgot that little line of dialogue. Ben and Betty kind of rush in. You've obviously seen that they've been in a bush because obviously they tripped and fell. So with this, they feel sorry that they've lost the tracking device, but then they all kind of realize that if it's on the truck with the monster, then the truck's going to be where it stopped with the monster, so that's the best place. When Ben kind of goes through all the stuff on there, he's like, oh yeah, it's actually here. It's an abandoned warehouse. Again, I would love to see that readout because previously in the episode we didn't see it, we just saw a little tracking device. So maybe they've upgraded it in that time, but yeah, we know that they're at the abandoned warehouse. Back at the kind of abandoned warehouse, Nate has finished the robot and he's kind of working on his communicator to try and get it running. Roxy then comes up and says, have you actually finished this? And Nate's like, yeah, just be really careful, just move the robot, but don't kind of be too rough with it. The Rangers are now at the abandoned warehouse and they're about to go in. They don't see anything around, and all of a sudden a monster, the same monster from the episode, just randomly jumps out and starts attacking them. The Rangers then morph and a huge fight breaks out. Now I've got to admit, again, it's very hard to tell what was Sentai footage and what was American footage, but I've got to admit I actually generally really like it all being mixed together because it works so well. Meanwhile, at the Cybergate, everything is ready. Evox is slowly coming out of the Cybergate and he's parts of him are going into this whole machine to actually be transferred into the robot body. And it's slowly happening. He's going like, yes, I'm going to be free. I can't wait. And this is when Nate steps up and he blasts the Cybergate, causing Evox to go back in and the robot not to have any of the the virus inside him. As everyone is kind of stunned Nate runs over. He shoots the kind of like the barrels to actually get the energy flowing, as he's just summoned the morpher, or the gun, well, it's a morpher gun, from the very beginning of the episode. With this, it charges up the device, and Nate steps in, and a vortex of energy goes around him. Quickly outside, Zoe is like shouting, "Nate, no, we've got to save him." And as she tries to run in, she gets blasted back, and things aren't happening. And they're all kind of like worried about what's going to happen with Nate. Nate becoming the Gold Ranger and seeing his suit, and then kind of you seeing parts of his suit, like camera shots on all different parts, reminded me very much of how the Gold Zeo Ranger first entered. So when he stood on that cliff and he did his pose, and then you just saw parts of the costume, so it kind of reminded me very similar to that, and I kind of really like that. I kind of dig it. As Nate has morphed, the energy has knocked back Blaze and Roxy and everyone in the room. And as he's like, "Oh my god, I'm the Gold Ranger," and he steps out, we see the new Silver Ranger kind of come up, which his name is Steel, which we find out later. So we're going to call him Steel because I named him the Silver Ranger in this review. So Steel is now there. He's transformed straight into the Ranger. Now, I didn't particularly like him that much, but he's a kind of cool Ranger, and I hope he kind of grows on me. I just really didn't like him that much. I think it's mainly because he's a little bit too cocky straight away, but we'll find out more kind of like that later on. So with Nate and Steel out, they go for Blaze and Roxy, as Blaze and Roxy have actually morphed. We got a double morph, and they go straight for the fight, and Nate and Steel just completely just kind of own them to the point where they teleport out. Outside, the Rangers are being beaten. They can't hold their own against it, and all of a sudden we see Nate and Steel kind of enter, and they're wondering who they are. And Nate's like, "Guys, it's me! I'm the Gold Ranger!" And Steel's like, "Hold on. Hold that, put a pin in it, come back to later. There's a monster that we've got to fight." So I kind of like that, what Steel did. And Nate just goes in for the fight as well. Back in the cyber dimension, Blaze and Roxy are annoyed at what's happened, that the plan has been kind of foiled by the Rangers, which then leads to Scruzzle actually making a Gigadrone and sending it to the city. So the Rangers now are called off. They are called to the battle, and Nate and Steel are the ones that stay and fight. Nate says, "Go, you go, it'll be fine." We get the Rangers in the Zords, and then we get a kind of debut fight with Nate and Steel, and I've got to admit, I really like this fight. I think it's not one of the best, but it's actually one up there, and it's a great way to introduce Nate to the Ranger family. We basically get a quick scene of the Megazord being formed, because it's draining Morph X from Devon's Zord, so they form the Megazord, it fights, and they destroy the monster, and then we come back to Nate fighting with Steel, and they defeat the monster of the day. Boom! I really like the fact that when they're fighting, you know, they're doing this strike thing, and Nate just like kind of pushes Steel's head out of the way, and they do the blast and destroy the monster. So back at the base, we get an explanation on why Steel is a Ranger. We find that Steel is actually part human. It's got Nate's DNA inside it, and that's the reason why it's kind of human. Steel kind of really wants this really long name, like Mr. Fantastic, super duper cool guy. So they just call him Steel because he drops Steel in there, which I kind of think is a really cool way. I really like the way that Steel is designed. I think his robot body is cool. I actually generally really like it. With this, like, they start talking, and then Nate's now part of the team. Now I'm going to wonder how that's going to happen when like they need to go out. Is Nate going to join them a lot, or is Nate going to be held back? So I don't know what the footage was like in Go Buster, if the Gold and Silver Ranger were actually in there quite a lot, or if it was just kind of like on and off at times. As soon as Nate's been welcomed to the team, so at the very end, before we jump to the cyber dimension, Scruzzle is in our dimension, and he's fixing the cyber gate. He then teleports into the cyber dimension, starts talking to Blaze and Roxy, where they're now going to go and try and steal the Silver Ranger, which is Steel, so that they can actually put Evox into the body. I generally don't know why they don't build their own robot, you know, do the same sort of thing, steal all the stuff and kind of like put it all together. I know Scruzzle couldn't do it, but you kind of think you would have recorded Nate as he would have been doing stuff, and that's pretty much it. Evox likes the plan. Roxy says like, yeah, the new Silver Ranger is going to be theirs, and that's it. That's the end of that episode. Okay, so my kind of thoughts on this episode. I've got to admit, I really like the way that they introduced Nate to this. I think that, as I said previously, it kind of makes me think that they were going for the Gold Ranger from Zeo kind of look. Shot here, shot legs, and then the Ranger being introduced. And I kind of thought that was really, really cool. Something that was different, and a very great way to introduce Nate to the Ranger team. I didn't really like Steel's voice in this one. It felt very kind of Johnny Bravo to me, but I'm hoping that it will grow, that they'll kind of tone it down a little bit, because it was just like, I am fantastic, I am the best, you cannot defeat me, I can defeat you Rangers, but you can't touch me. I generally don't like that sort of attitude, but I'm hoping that they're going to change that later on, that because he's got human DNA inside him, he's going to be kind of more like, he'll basically grow and be like, oh, I'm really sorry, didn't mean to, and then tone everything down. I really like Nate's ability to kind of think on his feet. He knew exactly what was happening and he already had a plan and basically just tricked everyone into doing their stuff, which I thought was fantastic. So I really like Nate on this one. He's one of my favorite Gold Rangers now, but I generally want to see what he's like later on, and I can't wait to see how he progresses in the series. It feels now that the series is going in the right direction. They know what they're doing. They're slowly not paying attention to a lot of stuff in the previous episodes, but for now, I think what they're doing is great. So Ranger Nation, I'm going to leave it there. This episode was good. What were your thoughts? What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you want a chance to win one of these coins, all you have to do is just literally leave a comment on what you thought of Beast Morphers and what you thought of Nate. So let me know down below in the comments, and if you've liked this video, like, favorite, comment, and consider subscribing. Check that notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. And as always, Ranger Nation, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.